So hello, London's calling. Hello. So thank you so much to the organisers for having me today. So I previously talked at London's Calling in 2021, but it was all virtual. So they invited me back a couple of years later to do all in person. So it's amazing to be here today with you all. So I'm Ahmed. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem since 2006, where I was an accidental Salesforce admin, looking after a Salesforce org for a global tooling company. And then in 2012, I've made the transition to consulting when I joined Capgemini. And I'm still there today. And I lead a team of about 150 consultants in the UK. If you follow me on LinkedIn or are going to follow me on LinkedIn, you might also know that I'm really passionate about diversity and inclusion. So I use my voice and platform to make sure that we are working towards a really inclusive workplace. So, are we ready to fine-tune our ears? Yeah? Are we ready? Yeah. Okay. So, if you look at these characters, so they're film and TV characters, not the actual actors themselves. So the film and TV characters, can anyone tell me what these characters have in common? Correct. They're known for not being very good listeners. So if they're not very good listeners, obviously they're not going to be active listening at all, right? So yes, let's get ready to kind of fine-tune our ears. So listening is primarily about understanding others. So listening is understanding, it's not just hearing the words, yeah? Listening is all about understanding each other. So what do really good listeners do, right? So what do they encourage? They basically foster better relationships. They solve problems more effectively, and they prevent misunderstandings. And as we're all in the Salesforce ecosystem, we all know when we're delivering projects, talking to stakeholders, etc., those three things are absolutely vital in our kind of day-to-day roles. So in this session, we're going to focus on 5 key strategies, yeah? Really simple strategies that I'm going to go through. And then after each strategy, please look out for my bonus listens, which are just little extra bits that might give you a bit more kind of guidance, yeah? So, number 1, be fully present, yeah? Fully engaged, fully present, time to pay attention. So primarily, put away your phone, yeah? And not just your phone, but any distraction, yeah? Any distractions that we've got, let's put them away. Let's be fully engaged and completely focus on the speaker, yeah? Completely focus on the speaker, because when you do these two things, it enables you to remain focused, right? You're going to remain focused, put away all distractions. Now, there's a couple of really good examples of this. The first one, as we all now live in a hybrid world where we use Microsoft Teams, Zoom, etc., right? First example is, how many times have we all been on calls where somebody's asked a question, they come off mute and they say, sorry, can you repeat that question? Yeah? Or what kind of goes after that is, sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah? And we all know that's code for, I wasn't paying attention, I was feeding the dog, I was, going away making a cup of tea, that kind of thing, right? So absolutely, I can't stress how much it is to kind of make sure that you've got no distractions. Another great example of this, and I do this with my own partner, right? So basically, me and my wife will sit down and we'll say, oh, let's watch this show, or let's watch this film. So we'll sit down, and after about 5 minutes, we'll both be on our phones, yeah? Or one of us will be on the phone, and the other person will say, what did they say? Or, sorry, who's that character? And then you start pausing, rewinding, right? So these little simple things, as long as you kind of remain focused, that's strategy number one, be fully present. And the bonus listen for this one is there's a great book by somebody called Kate Murphy, and it's called You're Not Listening, What You're Missing and Why It Matters. So if you want to know a bit more detail into these strategies, please go away and have a look at that book. So number 2 is avoid interruptions. So no ifs or buts, right? So allow the speaker to fully express all of their thoughts, yeah? Like I said, these are simple strategies. So allow the speaker to express these thoughts fully. And what that basically does is it demonstrates respect and patience, right? The respect of the conversation and also your own patience, yeah, as well. And also, again, really crucial in kind of the roles that we all do, it really helps you kind of understand the complete message, yeah, understand all of the message. Really good kind of real life example of that is basically if you're having like a team meeting and there's like a brainstorming type session, make sure that, you know, people have completely finished before you jump in with your ideas. And actually, generally in day-to-day life, I think as humans, we need to try and resist the urge to kind of jump in, because what we do is sometimes we think we're being helpful, but somebody will say, oh, you know, I got delayed because of my train or something like that. And you'll automatically put it on yourself. You'll start talking, you'll say, oh yeah, last week I got delayed. But there might have been more to their story, right? So kind of respect the boundaries and make sure that we're understanding the complete message. The bonus listen for this one is there's a really good podcast called The Good Life Project. So it's a series and they cover lots of variety of kind of life skills. There's a couple of episodes that are hosted by Jonathan Fields around the kind of lost art of listening and the power of deep listening. So I do recommend those. They're fantastic, fantastic listens. So number 3 is show empathy. Kind of put yourself in their position, yeah? So try to understand from the kind of speaker's perspective and also essentially use positive body language as well. And what this does, all of that great stuff, it kind of encourages the speaker to share, yeah? So examples of this is kind of smiling and nodding, yeah? Especially kind of nodding. These are all kind of signs of active listening, yeah? Because what you really want to do is kind of encourage the speaker to keep on sharing, especially if it's probably something that they weren't that comfortable about sharing before, right? So we're kind of tapping into our emotional intelligence there as well. I guess a negative example of this is when somebody's in a meeting and they've got crossed arms, yeah? Because that's quite negative body language, yeah? So you want to kind of be open, you want to kind of nod, you want to smile if it's appropriate, right? So you want to kind of engage the kind of speaker in that. So my kind of bonus listen for this one is an extension of the positive body language. So it's mirroring. It's a technique that's used to kind of look at the tone and the volume of the person that's speaking, and you're going to kind of try to match that, right? So what I mean by that is if somebody's talking quite quietly, you don't want to go in there and start shouting, right? Because that's not really active listening. What you want to do is go, actually, I'm going to actively listen and kind of gently go, what do you think about that? And kind of engage them in that way, yeah? So that's number 3. Now, we move on to strategy number 4, which is reflect and clarify, yeah? And it's essentially a strategy to kind of say you've understood what the person has been saying, and you're going to kind of play it back to them, yeah? It's a really fantastic strategy, yeah, and I'll give you some kind of great examples where it's used. So what this does is you kind of summarize back what the speaker has been saying, yeah? So you're going to summarize very briefly your understanding of what they're saying, and what that does is that it shows that you understand. So you understand the particular topic or whatever that they're saying, yeah? And also, it can bring up an opportunity to clarify, yeah? Brings up that opportunity to maybe ask that question, or it could potentially be something like, you thought it was colour red, but actually it was blue, and they say, oh no, I didn't say red, I said blue. That type of thing, right? So it's going to give you that opportunity to clarify. A couple of examples here. The first one is customer support service agents, say like for a retail company, do this really well. And so, for example, if you've got an order and it hasn't arrived and you call up said retail company, what good customer service agents do is at the end of the call or towards the end, they'll basically say, so what you're saying is that your order didn't arrive on time and you need it to be, ASAP on the next delivery date of X date, etc. Yeah, so they do it all the time. Really, really great technique. The other kind of real life example I can give you is that if any of you are parents, there's a great kids TV show on CBeebies. I've got a 7-year-old daughter, so this is why I know this, called Bing. So I don't know if anybody's ever watched Bing. It's about a bunny, and it's only a 10-minute show, and basically he has all these adventures, and there's always some learnings from, he kind of broke something or something like that, and then there's like a lesson to be learned at the end, right? So what they do in the last 30 seconds of that show is essentially they do reflect and clarify, and they do it so good. So I will kind of stress to you, go away and watch that. He'll basically, and you can seriously take away what he does, because he'll kind of tell the story and then what he's learned, and he kind of does it all in like 15 to 20 seconds, and you just, wow, it's brilliant. So obviously my bonus listen for that one is watch Bing. Season 1, episode 6 is a really good one. It's all about the bandstand. So make sure you check that one out. Right, moving on to number 5. So strategy number 5 is keep an open mind, yeah? So it's kind of an extension to all the stuff that I've previously said. No judgments, yeah? So avoid making any judgments whilst you're listening, yeah? And as humans, what we do is our mind starts to, trail, yeah? And we're going to start thinking about questions, and we're going to start thinking about solutions and things like that, right? So try to avoid making any judgments until you know the complete message. And yeah, try not to offer advice unless asked, because sometimes the message might not have all been completed, right? And you might be going up the garden path with something. So make sure you've got all of the message and try not to offer any advice unless asked. And absolutely, once you know that the kind of conversation is coming to an end, make sure you ask open-ended questions. And it is easier said than done, right? But what this kind of does is it enables the speaker to kind of share more. And we want to encourage that sharing, right? So examples of open-ended questions are, can you tell me more? How can we do this? What are you looking forward to? Yeah. So all open-ended questions, not ones that have got kind of a clear-cut answer. And what it does is it encourages the speaker to kind of share more. And that is great strategy for active listening. The bonus listen is something that happens all the time in the Salesforce ecosystem. And I'm guilty of it, I'm sure many of you are as well. Do not start creating a solution, right? Because sometimes a client or stakeholder or whoever will start telling you a challenge, and straight away you start going, that's a pick list field, that's a flow, that's a new object. And we should really try to avoid essentially doing that. So make sure that you avoid creating a solution. Right. So now London's Calling has allowed me to fulfill one of my 90s childhood dreams, and that was to become a quiz show host. I always wanted to be a quiz show host. I know, no judgment. So if you give me a anticipation clap, there's just going to be a quick wardrobe change, yeah? I have to do it very carefully. Thank you. Keep clapping, please. So, welcome to Have You Been Listening? Yeah? And you're going to get 3 attempts to potentially win an original Trailblazer Astro complete with miniature hoodie, right? So, here we go. As it's the 90s, we're very low tech. So, sorry, there aren't any buzzers. And it's just going to have to be the quickest hand that goes up. But the only rule is you can't put your hand up until I've read all the questionnaire, right? So here we go. Are you ready? Yeah? Question 1. What is the difference between hearing and listening? I think that was you. Fantastic. Okay. Question 2. Are we ready? Yeah. Why is it important to not interrupt the speaker? That was you, sir.
To let them fully express what they want to say.
Fantastic. Please come. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw it. Sorry. Right. Last one, people. Last one. Here we go. Question 3. I'm just looking around, just trying to focus, right, so I can know which hand's going to go up first. Can you explain the reflect and clarify technique? That was yes, that was you. Yeah, you're really good. Thank you. No more questions. So a round of applause to our winners. Well done. Well done. So basically, we're coming to the end of the session. And this one hasn't got a prize, sorry, because all the prizes have gone away. But can you tell me what these characters from film and TV, so do we know what these characters have got in common? Yeah, exactly. So they're known for being really good listeners, and actually they're known to be active listening as well. Yeah, there's a lot of active listening in a lot of the shows that you can see there. So let's recap the 5 strategies, yeah? Be fully present, avoid interrupting, show empathy, reflect and clarify, and keep an open mind. Yeah? And when you do those, you're starting your journey on active listening. What I will say, this is probably only one of the few sessions where you can put this into practice straight away. So straight away, within seconds, in your next conversation, you can put this absolutely into practice. So, are we ready to actively listen in our next conversation?
Yay!
I'm Chuck Ahmed. Thank you very much for listening. I don't know if we've potentially got some time for questions, if anybody's got a question.
Yes, I can speak up. Yeah, thank you for your talk. It was brilliant. I think the world would be a better place if people were better active listeners. How do you adjust or demonstrate active listening when you're speaking to the people you manage virtually as opposed to online? How do you adjust that dynamic from in-person to virtual?
Yeah, so virtual can be a challenge. And you have to try and make sure that you kind of respect the boundaries, right? So something that if you were in the previous session, we talked about if somebody's not comfortable kind of being on camera, but you ask them, right? This is the thing. I think sometimes we're a little bit afraid of asking about the boundaries, but we shouldn't be. We should kind of say, is it all right do you want to put cameras on or put that type of thing, right? I would kind of say in real life, kind of when you're not virtual, body language is even more important, yeah? But on virtual kind of sessions, you must try to stay engaged. It can be harder, but you must try to stay engaged. And I fear that we are in a world where we're multitasking all the time. We've got so many distractions, but actually we're losing some of the kind of core listening. So it's encouraging people to not have those distractions, especially when it's virtual. Sorry, I don't know if that answered your question. Hi.
So my question is second point on interruption.
Yeah.
Imagine you're running a meeting of multiple people. So you've got to keep track of time eventually. So how do you strike a balance between avoiding interruption and time?
Yeah, so it is essentially that balance, right? So what you potentially want to do there is kind of make sure, you can maybe at the start of the meeting, you can kind of tell people what the kind of ground kind of rules are, what the expectations are, yeah? And it kind of depends on the meetings as well. Like I said earlier, it's all about kind of setting those boundaries, yeah? So you can kind of, before the meeting happens, you can kind of set that expectation, yeah? So people are aware. Always inform people of what the meeting is going to be about, how you're expected to get questions in, etc. If you're short on time, then say that. We had a virtual meeting yesterday that I was running, and we were going crazily over time. But prior to the session, I'd already said that if we go over time, this is what the plan is. So kind of have a bit of contingency, right? So I think it's pre-planning. Make sure that you pre-plan. Expectations set. Yes.
I put it on Q&A, but yeah. So I don't know if other people have been in this situation, but sometimes you join an organization and you don't know a lot about the project, or they talk about something you're not familiar with, and so many organization vocabulary you don't understand. So how can I be engaged and active listening when I don't know maybe either majority of what they're talking about, and sometimes nothing. Like I don't have any clue what they're talking about, but at the same time I have to be actively listening.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to have, everyone's going to be at different stages of their journey, right? So if you're like onboarding and you're fairly new, what you need to make sure is you've been signposted to like the right material, yeah? Because in that kind of situation, you would I'd like to think that you'd have context setting, you'd have like some documents to read before joining the session, yeah? So you kind of make sure that you've got that context, somebody signposted you. And if they haven't, maybe if you know that meeting's coming, maybe you should ask, yeah, and kind of plan for it. But it is a challenge if you're brand new. But yeah, again, maybe it's even a bit more important to kind of stay active listening in there and kind of listen in. Maybe you don't have to ask so many questions, but you can kind of just absorb it. So yeah, I think kind of pre-reads and stuff are probably going to be helpful in that situation. I think we're at time. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much. Thank you.